Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the confidence architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we educate you, we motivate you, but most of all, we inspire you to be the best person that you can be. With a great new year, we have a lot of great new guests here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, and this week's guest is no different. We got the one and only Curtis McCoy. Woo! Curtis, how you doing, my brother?
Good, man. I'm glad to be on again. And
man, let me give you a big round of applause here, man. I'll tell you what, I was pumped up. I saw the schedule for today. My assistant sent it to me, and it was you. So I'm like, man, let's rock and roll, dude. I know the amazing person you are. I'm going to be able to spend some time with you and really just get to know you here. But it's 2022. Introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. Who is Curtis McCoy, my brother?
So probably most people don't know me. I've published 4 books. I've got a show on Amazon TV and different things. But I'm basically, I started out with owning multiple different retail locations. I had 3 different cell phone stores, a pharmaceutical company, a cosmetic medical laser clinic. I owned a Christian clothing company. So I've built quite a few different businesses, had been very successful financially in quite a few areas. But I've also had some major failures. Like anybody who's been real successful is typically, you've typically failed more than you've actually succeeded. Just people know the success story because that's what sounds good on the media or whatever. My most recent book is called How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. And I actually mailed you a copy of it, I believe, already.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got that. So thank you, brother. I was going to give you a shout out for that here on the show.
Absolutely. But yeah, so that's basically where I'm at. I've owned a bunch of different businesses and survived brain cancer. I had a malignant glioblastoma brain tumor. So you'll notice sometimes as I'm speaking, I'll kind of stumble over my words and stuff. But a lot of people do, so that may just be that I've got a better excuse than some folks.
Man, well, I'll tell you, I was just looking over just everything that you've accomplished and everything you've done. But I think what I want to start off with is right now, it's 2022 as we're in the first quarter, coming out, running and gunning. And I love what you said. You've had so much successes, but I think so many times we do focus on the success. What did you learn? I really want to kind of just take a deeper dive in what you learned about yourself through the adversities you've been through, right? Because I can tell you, I couldn't imagine just having the cancer and just really losing that your voice, man. Just think about that. I mean, how imperative that is to business.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself in that season as far as when you're going through this? What did you learn about yourself that, man, you didn't realize you had this uncommon strength inside of you?
So I grew up in a really rough home. I mean, I had some pretty bad situations. I mean, even to the point of my father, and I don't typically share this. I've made a decision. I'm going to start opening up more this year and not being so protected in what I actually allow the world to see. So I grew up in a pretty rough situation. To the point of one time where my dad had handed me a loaded pistol, and after hours of yelling and beating and stuff, I'd been knocked down and sitting on the bathroom floor, and handed me a loaded pistol and told me to do the world a favor. After telling me I was a waste of skin, I was a waste of oxygen, things like that. But that's one of the things. I think a lot of us go through a lot of failures and a lot of problems like that, but so many people choose to define themselves by the failure, or you hear people that, women that are 40, 50 years old that are still defining themselves as a childhood rape survivor.
Oh, wait up. I don't want to miss this because you're on the floor as a child with a loaded pistol. Your dad says to you, you're a waste of oxygen.
Yeah,
And how, dude, I got to give you applause for that, because look at what you've done despite the words that were spoken to you, man. That is some resilience just in general. And I got to applaud you for that, because so many people play the victim. So many people in that situation would blame their dad and probably,
Become the same way. Yeah.
yeah, man. That's, I mean, that's huge, brother. I got to give you some applause for that, man. That's freaking phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a part of the show where I want you to get out your pen. I want you to get out your paper because M. Curtis McCoy is going to drop some value, some wisdom right here. And you know how I always say it, when you write down the information, you retain a lot more of it. So take notes and take notes because he's going to drop some value here today. So you're here as a child. I don't want to miss this because I think so many people were anchored in the identity of what we've been through, right? In that
Yeah.
child abuse and that verbal abuse. And I get it, right? But there is a way to come out of it. So you're growing up as you're going through this. How did you change that mindset? What did you do to change your story to say, man?
Let me, so like I was talking about with the abuse,
Yes.
you hear people who, I mean, I spoke with a guy who's probably in his mid 50s, maybe early 60s, just recently, that was talking about the reason he had failed in life. And, the reason he really had never done anything is because he had got into drugs when he was young and hadn't had he was still defining himself as a 16, 18-year-old kid that, doing drugs, he was talking about back then, I think he's talking about smoking marijuana and got into drinking heavy and stuff and had quit that. But even though he's sober now, he was still defining himself as what he was doing, 30, 40 years ago. I mean, that's 20, 30 years ago. Still had that definition of, well, I went through this, this addiction to alcohol and drugs, marijuana, whatever he was using there, and had himself defined as that loser that was stuck, that was an ex-alcoholic. Going, man, that was long ago in the past. You could have done a ton of different stuff in your life, but you've chosen to focus on that negative. And that's the only reason I was sharing that thing with my dad is because so many of us let ourselves be defined where, whether that was, a little girl that was raped when she was growing up or, kids that were beat on her, the same thing like with the abuse that I went through, the different things, surviving cancer, being diabetic, the different issues.
But what
It's
did
so
you
easy
do
to define
personally
yourself
to
in that.
overcome that story, to change your story? Because I think so many times we believe that story that plays in our head that says you're a waste of oxygen, you're no good. What are
Yep.
you good for? You're not enough. Whatever it may be that maybe your mom, your dad told you, maybe even your big brother, whoever it may be, that relative. And what did you do to change that story, to change that channel in your life, man? Because I
Yeah.
think that's going to drop some massive value right now.
Well, so we all go through those struggles. It's just whether or not we choose to define ourselves as that. And so the big thing for me was, I'd say probably the defining moment was we'd gone to a Baskin Robbins in Denver, which was very, very rare. I mean, we didn't get our own hamburger if we went to a restaurant. It was you split it with your brother. But we're there. We'd order an ice cream. My dad was in a good mood, and we walked in, and there was this gigantic, like 280-pound, just a massive bodybuilder, black guy sitting there with a beautiful blonde girl. And my dad is a racist guy, and he says, he walked in, he looked at him, and he says, somewhere a white mother is crying. And so I decided at that time, that was actually before the pistol incident, but I decided that at that time thinking, I was looking at this guy hoping that he would get up and just cave my dad's head in. I'm hoping, okay, I hope this black guy kills my dad. And the guy looked over and kind of shrugged it off and smiled and just, you could see it was not that he was irritated or mad at him, but he just put his head down and I'm looking at this guy going, that's the guy that I want to be, is this leader that chooses not to let the outside world or whatever's happening to him affect him. And so he just shook his head down and looked back down like it didn't bother him. And
Yeah.
so I spent years and years, I started reading books, personal development books, How to Win Friends and Think Like a Leader, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, all these books at 13 years old, where I'd save up my lunch money and I'd run down during school. I'd sneak out of school during the lunch break
You
there.
were reading books at 13 years old?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Really?
But that was because I made the
Yeah.
decision when I'm sitting there on the bathroom floor, I was trying to decide, do I take that pistol and do the easy thing and kill myself and just get out of this out of the struggle that I was going through, or do I use it against my dad, which was, the main thing that I was thinking is how many times will I have to shoot him? It's a 6 shooter, 357 pistol. So I'm going, if I shoot him probably a couple times. He's a big, strong dude. You shoot him maybe 2 or 3 times. And then who else is coming after me? And do I have enough bullets? And can I, am I going to be able to get away? Or is one of the other kids or something going
Yeah.
to,
Wow. That's
so
powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what M. Curtis McCoy is saying. It's not where you start in life, it's where you finish. It's what you do with the things that happen to us. He could have played the victim, but he chose not to. And many times we were told these lies, these our dad, our mom, society puts these labels on us. And think about, what are you believing right now in 2022 that didn't serve you in 2021? What are you believing right now in 2022 that didn't serve you at all in 2021? Maybe to you, you're not beautiful enough. Maybe you're a woman listening to this and you feel like, nah, I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not educated enough. What label are you believing? And the word that comes to mind, ladies and gentlemen, is intentionality. Curtis had a choice. At 13 years old, he was intentional and saved his money, right? He was intentional. First of all, he saved his money. Then there was more intentionality where he went and he bought these books to better himself for personal development. Where in your life are you not taking control and being intentional? So write this question down on your journal right now. Where in my life can I be more intentional? Where in my life do I need to be more intentional? Ask yourself those questions. So you're going through this, M. Curtis, and then what transpires after you start reading these books, and when do you finally see the light? I guess that day at a young age, man.
well, a quick thing on that. I'm going to listen to this again, not for what I say, but that note that you just said about taking down notes and asking yourself, where can you change? What do you need to be? What do you need to intentionally be working on in your life? I'm going to listen to that again and make sure I make a note for myself as well. So that was an incredible question. Um, tell me what your question was right now.
Yeah, just you're coming out of this. You start reading these books at 13 years old. You're saving up your money. You're coming out of it. After you start this process of personal development and reading books in your teenage years, like where did you start to see the change happen, or just the value in yourself after being told these things as a child?
That's another good point and an easy thing to overlook. So I spent from the time I was 13 until I got out of school, uh, got clear into college, and I was reading books typically 5 to 6 books a week sorry about that, 5 to 6 books a month. Um, Depending on however many I could get my hands on. A lot of times I was rereading books. I was getting books at the library, the school library, just trying to figure out how to not become what I was being brought up as. And but I spent a lot of years still thinking, even after reading these books, I'd read How to Win Friends and Influence People probably 8 or 10 separate times. I mean, the book was falling apart, all kinds of different highlighter notes and different pen and pencil and stuff. Um, but it's not ever an instant change. I mean, you may have, read a book on something that you can implement right away and change it. But when it's something about building that your sense of self-worth and deciding, or I guess learning who God meant you to be, that doesn't typically happen instantly. For some people, maybe it does. But as a kid, I was still fighting. I'm still going home to that same type of upbringing. And so even though I was, playing football, varsity, the captain of the wrestling team, really great athlete, but felt absolutely worthless. And even from 13 to 18, that was 5 years of study, daily study. I forged the sign up sheet going into high school on which classes to take, and I cut out one of them and changed that for Spanish 1 and then Spanish 2, trying to learn. Just again going, I don't want to be this racist loser kind of a person, so I'm sneaking to take
Yeah,
the
man.
class on, and
So
take
I
the
love what you said though, because
but it doesn't happen instantly.
even though I love what you just said, because it so many times in life, in business, we want things to happen instantly. Everybody wants instant coffee. Everybody wants instant
Nobody wants
microwavable
instant coffee.
results. Everybody wants instant. Everybody wants instant. And I was just talking to a client of mine, and it broke my heart because so many times, like, they're doing great in coaching, and all of a sudden they want to be far more ahead than where they are. And I try to explain to this particular client, I said, well, just slow down. You're right where you need to be. Don't worry about it. And then, of course, right, they get to the point where they start doing better, and they get unstuck, and now they got confidence and courage, and they have some little wins. But then they want to go and take on a bigger capacity, which they're not ready for. And then next thing you know, it's too much, and they crumble under the pressure. And it's like, I said, well, you weren't ready for that. Like, I'm where I want to be when right where I'm at right now. I wanted to be here 4 years ago. You know what I mean? But I couldn't see that back then. And so many times we want it instantaneously. And I love what you said, the change that you had to go through from yourself, of seeing yourself of who you were in that upbringing, in that environment, and putting yourself in a different environment through your mind by reading these books until from 13 to 18. It's like, I love what you said, because so many times we want that instant gratification, instantaneous results, and that's not going to happen a lot of times. Give somebody a word of encouragement right now. Maybe they're in a situation where they've been going through the same old for the last year, 2 years, 3 years with COVID, all this stuff going on. But they're playing the victim. What's the best
Yeah.
2 words of wisdom, advice that you can give these people to really get them unstuck, to get them moving forward, and to let them know that it sometimes it's a process you have to go through.
So you hear the people say, well, you've got to fail to succeed, or some people don't. I mean, some people just come out and they're great at whatever they do, and they never have that failure. But I would say if you're in a position, especially right now, where you're looking down on yourself, or you're feeling, wondering, what am I even doing with my life? Who am I supposed to be? Why am I even living? Why am I even here? I hope you just look and understand that you were created by a God that loves you. He created you in his own image, and he knows every hair on your head. So even though you might be going through some terrible stuff, like everybody does, whether they share it or not, you're created in the likeness of the God who created the entire universe. So he loves you. He loves you enough that he sent his son to die for us on the cross. So I mean, you're incredible. I just wish that you could see yourself as everybody else sees you. And you may have a couple of bad influences, or a couple of losers telling you that you're not good enough, or that you're too fat or too skinny, or not smart enough, or whatever. But when you go out, the average person, you go to the grocery store, the coffee shop, the average person is seeing you, and there's something that they admire about you, something that you could teach them, and you've got something you could do better than anybody else can.
Boom, baby. I love that, right? You have something inside of you that you can do better than somebody else can. Ladies and gentlemen, write that down. Write this down right now. I just feel this in my heart. You have something of value inside of you. Yes, you watching this right here on YouTube, or listening to us on iTunes. You have something of value inside of you. And the thing is this is take that value that you have. So many times, Curtis, it breaks my heart because we have something of value, but we don't build on that value, right? We don't build on that value. I think of the book that I've read over and over again, Ogmandino, the world's greatest salesman in the world, is today I will multiply my value 100-fold. Today I will multiply my value 100-fold. I say that to myself every day. Every day, give yourself a new experience, learn something new, but don't just learn it just to have it, but apply it in your life. Like M. Curtis said, you have something inside you of value. Why not take that value that you have and add more value to it? And M. Curtis is an example of that. He's had multiple businesses. And as we shift here,
Failed at a
how
bunch of businesses too.
how did that, what you went through as a child and in your teenage years, how did it help you to become a great businessman? You've had more than two or three successful businesses. How did you apply what you went through, and how did that help you in business? I'm
So
Curtis.
let me share a story about when I had, at the time, I owned a cosmetic medical laser clinic and a company that was manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides. Basically a pharmaceutical, white label pharmaceutical company. And also was running the Christian clothing company. I had another company manufacturing the shirts for me. So I was sponsoring events at the Denver Coliseum, bodybuilding shows in Colorado Springs, and different, different large events. We'd sponsoring after parties at nightclubs where, I'd have 18 bodybuilders follow me around in my company logo T-shirt, snap, and I'd tell them we're going to sit over here, and felt like everything was going great. And then I started having these seizures, and I had had seizures all my life, intermittently because of being diabetic, but I started pretty soon. I was having 7 to 10 seizures a week, and I'd be walking along. We were sponsoring one of the events at the Denver Coliseum, a MMA or like a UFC type fight, and I'm the title sponsor. So they had brought me up on stage, announced me. I had Andy Hammond, who recently passed away, but had he come up there in one of my shirts, ripped the shirt off, did his posing routine there, and so everybody in the Coliseum is looking. Then I had my booth set up with some of the nutritional supplements that we were manufacturing, and I'm there. And pretty soon, my blood sugar is getting low, and between that, we didn't know I had brain cancer yet. But as my sugar started dropping, I fell over. I'm still conscious, but I start having a seizure. I peed myself. So I'm there in the Denver Coliseum in front of thousands and thousands of people. I'm the title sponsor of the event. And I had a seizure. I mean, banged my head up, hitting my face on the concrete. I get up and I'm wearing my dark dress slacks, but I had peed my pants as a full grown man sponsoring this event. And you have drug out some ridiculous stuff out of me that I didn't even plan to share about my dad today. The questions you're asking kind of opening up my life here for the world to see. But so this had all happened, and I'm just going, I was thinking more about killing myself then than I was when Dad had me put the pistol in my mouth as a kid. Just going, here, I'm losing absolutely everything. I got to where, I couldn't go out on a date because I'd take the girl out and I'd pass out on the sidewalk and she'd take off thinking I was a druggie or something. But that failure and going from being so successful to moving back in, I was diagnosed with brain cancer later. Doctors come in, I had lost the use of half my body. So they thought it was a stroke, thought it was a TIA stroke. And I, woke up, couldn't communicate. So I was trying to tell the paramedics what was going on. And the words that I was writing are not what I was thinking because of the brain tumor. So I got there, and coming out of that, I had to move back living with my parents in Crawford, Colorado, in a 1-bedroom log cabin, sleeping on their living room floor, 35 miles from the nearest stoplight, and trying to figure out how do I go from owning all these different companies. I lost absolutely everything in the blink of an eye. And then I'm sleeping on my parents' floor in the middle of nowhere couldn't drive, couldn't ride my new motorcycle. I couldn't even sleep alone. The reason I'm sleeping on their floor is because as I was having seizures and stuff, my parents had to come in and mom and stepdad, not the original dad, but stepdad's a real good dude. But as that's all happening, it was such a good thing. I wouldn't choose to do it again, but it was such a blessing to go through that, the abuse and the brain tumor and then losing absolutely everything, so that now I can talk to people. I just had a kid a couple of days ago that called my number on Facebook, the internet number, and contemplating suicide because he was going, he's lost everything. He had lost his girlfriend of 5 years. He'd lost his college football scholarship, and just feeling like there's no reason to go on. And so going through that and then coming back and building additional companies, opening multiple retail stores, writing 4 books now, I've got that ability to be able to take that hardship and share that and go, man, listen, here's my story. I shared the same thing with him. That's one of the first people I ever told about peeing my pants in front of this whole group of folks. But
so let me ask. So you're there, staying with your mom, with your stepdad. You lost everything. What gave you the drive? Maybe somebody's went through 2020 and they lost their business. They came out of 2021 and things didn't improve, and unfortunately they had to close down, or their business just ended up not making it. Maybe you're a person that had a job and the company you worked for closed down just for the fact of COVID and slow business, and they didn't know how to
Yeah.
really pivot and open up those new revenue streams of income for the corporation. You're there in that moment. How did you come out of that? Help us to see, man, I'm gonna bounce back from this. What do you attribute the fact that you came out of that? What's one or two things that you really look back and said, it was because of this I made it forward? Because I think that can help somebody right now.
So my biggest thing there that I had, some people don't, is I had that faith and I was following God, and I believed that I was saved, and even though the doctors had given me 60 to 90 days to live, I knew where I was going. So, I was praying. I told God. He obviously didn't listen, but I told him, just please take me out with a lightning bolt. Let me get hit by a car. Let me have a heart attack. Let me die soon enough that my mom doesn't have to see me wither away with chemo and radiation, brain surgery, and all the complications that come along with that. So I wasn't worried about. I'm not trying to sound brave by saying I wasn't worried about dying, but I knew where I was going, and so
You had accepted it to say, right? You kind of
yeah,
had,
I
you
accepted it.
kind of, there
Wasn't a
was a
big
part
deal.
of you that you had accepted it and maybe you had some peace about
Yeah.
it. Not that anybody wants you to leave, to say, or to pass away or to die, but I love what you said though. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Right now in your life, you're going all over the place. You're going in squiggly lines, circles. You're chasing your own tail. Maybe you're that small business owner. Your business closed down, and it's part of the gig, unfortunately, sometimes. And what are you learning from this? I would hope that you would listen to what M. Curtis is saying and listen to the fact that he had to hold on to something. Maybe right now you feel hopeless. And if you really listen to what he said, he says he had his faith to hold on to. That's what Curtis said. He had his faith to hold on to. He had his faith in God. So many times we try to do things on our own. We try to live life on our own, by our own doings, our own means, our own circumstances. It's you have that attitude that it's my way and no other way, and you just kill yourself. You kill yourself internally because you're under anxiety, you're under worry, you're under stress, and you're putting all this undue pressure on yourself because your way isn't working. It if you don't know, think about this way: if the results that are showing up in your life haven't changed, if you're still stuck or going backwards, and the only files you have in your mind are files of just right, they're files that are not serving you, files that keep you losing and going backwards and not being committed, those files of unworthiness. If you're making decisions based on what you know and you really haven't opened up your mind to the new, I think it's time you open up your mind to a new way of thinking, a new way of processing things, a new way of just really saying, I've gone as far as I can go. I need help. And maybe it's time that you do open up your spiritual eyes, depend on that faith inside of you. I think when this happened to me, I'm Curtis, right? No matter how much money I had in the bank 4 years ago in 2017, when my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, it wasn't going to save her. And I had to let go and say, God, like I'm trusting you. I'm at the wit's end. Obviously, what I have or what I can bring to the table, it's not going to save her to say because of this position or success that we've had in the business world. It just wasn't. And I had to rely on my faith, like you said. So maybe you're listening to this, maybe you're watching this right now, and it's time that you open your heart, or maybe you're running from God, right? Maybe you're one of those that you're like me. I'm 48 years old. Maybe when you were younger in your 30s and you serve God faithfully and you did something and you have that shame and guilt now. And, for 4 years, you've been hiding because you feel, guess what? God forgives you. I know that because he forgave me, Curtis. It just like, there's nothing that we can't do that God would not forgive us.
Yeah.
But so many of these people try to approach life and do life by themselves, do business by themselves. And I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. God is my CEO. That's why we continue to flourish. That's why we continue to be that palm by the riverbed, that we continue to blossom and grow and produce fruit no matter what the season is. And I say that with a humble heart because I know that God is my source.
Let me interject something here too. That shines from you. I mean, you can tell just the first time we got on a video call a while back here, just going, man, this Daniel Gomez guy, I like this guy. I want to spend some time with this guy. I want to hang out with him. And you know, I didn't even know in that first call, going, we hadn't talked a whole lot about God or anything until the end of the call when you asked if you could pray with me. And I was just going, man, this guy's got a magnetic personality. Like there's something about that guy. I want to be like that. I want to be like that when I grow up. I mean, we're about the same age, but
But thank you.
but people got that say, people get that feeling and don't understand why. But it's because you've got that relationship. You can tell you've got that connection with God, and it just makes you a desirable person to hang around.
Well, thank you, man. And I
See
love
that
what you said
insight when
because
you're
you
talking.
we need to have that faith to rely on. I mean, of course, you have to do the action, right? The connection between the invisible world and the visible world is action. You know, there's a flip side of what you said. We rely so much on our faith that we just expect our creator God to do everything. Now we don't do anything ourselves. Like we're like, well, I'm waiting on God, I'm waiting on God. Well, what have you done? Nothing. Well, you got to do something. There has to be an action that's going to take you from the invisible to the visible. There has to be a connection from the inner world of what you want to the outer world of the manifestation, right? Think about the iPhone. Somebody had to, right? It was an idea in the inner world of somebody's mind, heart, and soul. Well, they had it created by taking action. And that's what Steve Jobs and his team did.
That's
What
awesome.
is the best three pieces of business advice, M. Curtis, that you can give us that the audience can write down right now? If somebody's coming to you and no specific scenario, but what are three solid pieces of business advice that you have learned through a mentor or coach, or you've seen and you've applied in your business to where you're at now, bouncing back from losing everything, bouncing back from brain cancer? Obviously, there's some resiliency in you, but there's also a way of thinking that you overcome a lot of bull, right? I mean, you just overcome
Right.
it. So, what are three solid pieces of business advice that you would give to our audience today?
So I'd say first off, don't don't discredit yourself or don't think that you're not good enough or that you're not smart enough, not educated enough, not whatever. I had never owned a pharmaceutical company. I wasn't a doctor. I've got no medical background. So how did I end up with pharmacists and a doctor working for me? I watched YouTube videos. I read books. I spent ridiculous time at the library, did the research, but I had no expertise in the field. Uh, Same thing with the supplement company, with the clothing company, these different businesses. Even launching the telecommunications company and owning multiple retail stores. I didn't know anything about how cell phones work or how the service worked on the back end. Uh, so most of that is just have the faith to be willing to take out, or step out and take a step of faith, and also don't make if you're going to start a business you've got no experience in, don't do that without don't do it where you're gambling. Same thing with my fourth book here. I wrote the fourth book. The fourth book that was published was actually the first one that I wrote, but that was one that I knew that I wanted to be a bestseller. So I published three additional books, wrote and published three additional books, learning how to make those bestsellers before I ever released that first book that was written. Um, so I'd say first is have faith that you can do something. Have faith that you can do anything you set your mind to that's in God's will. Second is don't make a stupid decision, and don't quit your job to go do something you've got no experience with without studying and taking the time to learn what you need to do. And I'd say third is find a good mentor. This is probably the first thing you got to do. Find a good mentor or a group of mentors, whether that be somebody you're connecting with, on an individual basis, or whether it's reading books over and over and studying, like John C. Maxwell or some, one of these different leaders who have experienced things that you're looking to accomplish in your own life, and follow that mentor.
Or Daniel Gomez inspires.
Daniel Gomez inspires. Yes, sir.
But I love what you said. I got to give you a blowhorn on that one, right? Don't discredit yourself. Don't discredit yourself. So many times we discredit ourselves from the very get go. And I love the way you said that. That speaks to me when you said that, Curtis, is It hurts me. It breaks my heart when men and women discredit themselves, and you don't even give your chance. You don't even give yourself a chance to do the application, to submit that. And I think it's because we undervalue who we are. You discredit who you are, and I want this to be your goal, ladies and gentlemen. Do not discredit yourself in 2022. Maybe you're not qualified on paper, but I'll tell you what, with God's favor, God's grace, he'll qualify you because God qualifies the unqualified. But the thing is, this is the more actions you're taking and the more you step towards that belief of, you know what? I need to give myself more credit. The more you start saying to yourself, as a matter of fact, start telling yourself that I'm giving myself more credit. I bring more to the table than I realize. Start saying these positive words of affirmations over yourself, and I guarantee your life's going to change. I guarantee that.
I love what you just said there. God qualifies the unqualified. Look at Noah's Ark. I mean, the guy had never built a gigantic ship that could hold elephants and stuff. It's
Yeah, but and
God
I think
qualifies
you're
you.
right. I think I love what you said, right? First of all, he said get a mentor, get a coach. It shortens the distance from where you're going to where you want to be. And I myself, I still have. I think I've invested over $100,000 in our business. That's why we're making the revenue and the monies and the what we're making is because I shortened the process by having hired somebody that's already been there. When I wanted to learn to get more speaking engagement, I hired a speakers coach. Then I hired a business coach, and then a different. There's always something new to learn in business, and you can never know everything. And why go through the headache and the frustration? Listen to what M. Curtis said: hire a coach, hire a mentor, make the investments, because we've invested over hundreds of thousands. We've made millions. It's because of that. But if you don't make that investment up front, you're going to be struggling just forever. And the second thing he said, right? Look at what you're doing. Don't go out and not everything that glitters is gold. We've said that over and over on this show. Not everything that glitters is gold. Be patient. I was just telling a client this, Curtis, is you got to be consistent. Whatever decision you make, be consistent in it, but do the research like Curtis said. Don't go if you don't know anything about right now, that hot thing is cryptocurrency. If you don't know anything and understand it, don't go into it, because if you don't know it, you're gonna listen and believe everything they tell you. And I've known people that have lost thousands on that, and people are making money too, but you got to know what you're talking about. And lastly, like he said, right? Don't discredit yourself. You're enough. Man, Curtis, this has been an amazing, amazing interview. How does someone get a hold of M. Curtis McCoy if they want to connect with you, my brother?
The easiest way is probably just to Google me. And I'm not saying that to sound like I got a big head. You can go to mcurtismccoy.com, or mcm.team has a list of all the social media networks that I'm active on. But just Google me if you want. It's got all the books and featured profiles and all that kind of stuff on there. So, hey,
You hear
speaking of
that?
cryptocurrency, my girlfriend is down over $15,000 buying meme coins that I just found out. She was listening to some friends at work who were buying these different cryptocurrencies, having no clue what they're doing, just watching Reddit or some kind of thing there, and she's down over 15 grand on that. So, like I said, even with the mentor thing, find somebody. If you're trying to invest in crypto, find a mentor who knows what they're doing and understands the market, and don't just buy meme coins because that's what your coworkers are doing.
Because it's cool, right?
Yeah.
So go to mcurtismccoy.com, connect with them there. Google him also. We'll put his links on the show notes also. So M. Curtis, what's your favorite scripture or quote that you rely on times of adversity?
And there's I'm trying to think. I got a list here, but one thing that I do a lot with the memory issues from the brain cancer, I am like on the Bible plan. There's a app that I've got here. It's the YouVersion Bible app, and so you can get
Yes.
on there. And one thing I really love about that is you can find any type of lesson for anything you want to know about, that's already created, whether it's based on depression or building a business or saving money or public speaking or whatever. You can search different keywords. So I have a real hard time with memorizing anything, but I use that app on a daily basis, looking up different things that, whether it's just the full Bible 90 days plan.
Yeah. So what's the scripture you rely on during times of adversity?
Um, I, as far as one that I've memorized, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
No worries,
There's
man.
just all
I
those. I
yeah.
mean, I search them. I use the YouVersion Bible app like I do Google. Just
I love it. I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great time with you, Mr. M. Curtis McCoy. Go to his website, mcurtismccoy.com. Google him. Like I said, we'll have the show notes here. Thank you, my brother, for being an amazing gentleman, an amazing guest here on us. Give us the last word of wisdom before we close out the show, my friend.
I just reiterate that same thing, that you were created in God's image. You're incredible. You're better than you think you are, and don't use that as an excuse not to continue getting better, but use that as a reason to continue to be the best person that you were absolutely created to be. And you've got something to share with the world. You've got people you can inspire, even if that's when you're at the coffee shop just making somebody smile. You've got some way that you can change somebody's life. So don't undervalue yourself.
I love that. You're better than you think you are. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. If you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, we want to help you with our Shield of Faith coaching, award-winning business and executive coaching here with us, and we'd love to help you. We've helped hundreds of our clients. Get your complimentary discovery session with us. Go to www.danielgomezglobal.com. That's danielgomezglobal.com. Or we'll put the discovery links here on the show notes. That way you can click the link and book your complimentary discovery session. We want to help you in life or business. And if you're an aspiring speaker, March 11th and 12th here in San Antonio, Texas, we have the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy coming up. And we also have our fall one already booked out in the summer, August 25th and 26th here in San Antonio. We want to help you share your story. We want to help you be that paid, amazing speaker. This is Daniel Gomez Inspire saying thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, have a blessed and amazing week, everybody. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to danielgomezinspires.com and get your copy today. That's danielgomezinspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.